See you tomorrow night. Pass is caught. Diggs, sideline, touchdown. Keeps on the drive. Deep left field. No doubt about it. It is caught by Tyree. Here comes Escobar. 1-0 Kansas City. Didn't have the angle. Touchdown. It is gone. It is Seattle going to the Super Bowl.
Hey, what's going on, sports fans? Welcome back to Field and Diamond Talks. We got cameras this time, so it looks a little bit more interesting. But my name's Caleb. I'm here with Brake and Matt, who doesn't have his camera on currently, but he's working on that, so don't worry. But took a little bit of a bye week last week, so we're getting back into the swing of things. Got a full show lineup for you guys tonight. I'm excited to get down to it.
Very excited. Matt, how are we feeling? I know that we can't see your face, as we stated with the camera, but that's all right. We'll be working on that. How you feeling, Matt?
Oh, well, as good as I can be. I promise y'all will see this beautiful face at some point. Just got to get this camera situation figured out.
All right, don't let him fool you. I'm kidding. No.
Hey, man.
Okay, so we'll go ahead and we'll move on to our topic. So yeah, as Caleb stated, we took a little bit of a bye week. We had unfortunate technical issues with the one podcast episode that we actually recorded. So if any of you were wondering on some of those topics, we let's see. We had prospects for MLB teams when they'll be called up. The first game's recap and whatnot. We had the Wheel of Nostalgia. And that's pretty much all we had. So, yes, unfortunately, one of the Wheel of Nostalgia names is going to be removed. We're not going to redo it. It was Whit Merrifield. Just mainly talked about him as a player, talked about his accomplishments with the Royals and other teams. And Caleb discussed meeting his cousin at a former Cardinals, or at a former Cardinals game, at a previous Cardinals game, sorry. That's just kind of like a quick little recap. I'm not going to go too much into it. If you guys are more interested, you can PM us and we'll discuss some more about what we actually talked about with Whit Merrifield. But the topics that we are going to run down with today. So we have the MLB playoff picture as we stand 1 week away currently. It is September 22nd, 2024. So 1 week away currently from the actual postseason starting, or just about a week, I should say. Then we will discuss the NFL standings so far, what we're thinking, everything else, how our teams are doing. The Wheel of Nostalgia, so we'll revisit that. And then we have kind of a unique one with the favorite baseball and football players of all time. Those don't necessarily have to be from our teams, even though they probably will be for most of us. But also, it can just be anybody in the leagues. So that is those are the topics that we have. So, gentlemen, we'll go ahead and we'll start off with the MLB playoff picture. So, as it stands right now, and Caleb will obviously post a picture within the podcast itself. But as it stands right now, as I'm looking at it on my computer screen, just so I don't make any mistakes, on the AL side of things, one big surprise that I think really has shocked me is the fact that the Detroit Tigers are actually within the playoff picture. If the postseason were to end today, if the postseason were to start today, then the Tigers would be in, and they would be on the road facing the Astros, and winner of that series would be playing Cleveland. Fellas, what's our thoughts on that?
Oh, man. I mean, I don't think I expected that out of the Tigers, at least. I kind of didn't expect them to even... I mean, I know that they got Tyreek Skubal and everything. You know, he's getting ready to probably win the AL Cy Young Award and everything, but just the way they started out, they just weren't very hot to start. I just figured that they wouldn't really make it. I mean, I didn't think they would be like the White Sox right now, 120 losses. But I just didn't expect them to, out of nowhere, start making some noise and weaseling their way into the current wild card and knocking the Twins out of all teams, who seems like they've owned the Central for quite some time.
Right.
As far as the Royals go, I mean, if I'm Kansas City, I mean, we've got a week to go, and we're tied for the last spot, and anything can happen. I mean, I'm pretty disappointed with how they played the last few games. I mean, it's just I think with I saw a stat that said with runners in scoring position in our last series we were 0 for 17. So that's not where you want to be, especially coming this close to the wire. That's really tough. I mean, I think a lot of it plays into the fact that we lost Vinny Pasquantino and everything, but at the same time we've got all this veteran presence there, and I just feel like there's something else missing, and I wouldn't be surprised to see them miss the playoffs. Do I want them to miss? God, no. I mean, I'd love to see them back in the playoffs, but personally, I just feel like if they make it, they're just going to take a spot away from somebody who deserves it more.
Yeah, 100%. That's how I felt, especially going back on your points about Detroit. That's how I felt about Detroit. I think one of the most interesting things to note, and I'm not sure if you guys have actually seen this, but I'll talk on this because it is a former Cub player. Javier Baez, who currently plays for the Detroit Tigers, has actually not played a game since, I believe, August 22nd. And since that time, they have had their best stretch of games all year. I can't tell you the exact number, but it is a very, very good win-loss record from that time. So that's kind of depressing for Tigers fans that hoped that he would be good. I still recall a lot of the non-Cub fans, or what I like to call the bandwagon Cub fans, saying that we would never be good again, and that we would regret this move for the rest of our lives, losing Javier Baez, Anthony Rizzo, Chris Bryant. But I also believe that I think we shipped them off at the right time, personally. So, to all those people, you're wrong. Sorry. I believe Anthony Rizzo is about the only one that's actually lived up to his current standing, and even now he's still kind of on his way out, I believe, in the next couple of seasons. But besides the point, back to the actual wild card race.
Hang on.
Yeah,
I don't want to cut you off, but I actually just got a notification. The Reds just fired David Bell. He
really
just got fired after giving him an extension.
Man. So breaking podcast news, I guess. So Reds fired their manager David Bell. All right. All right. Okay. So that is breaking news as of 9:13 p.m. at September 22nd. I'm sure I'm going to be getting a text from my dad any second now.
Oh man.
So
I just see my phone buzz and I see Reds fire manager David Bell. I'm like,
I was wondering why I was looking over in your camera a little bit, and I was wondering why you were smiling so much. I was like, why is he smiling? I'm about to go into like the Royals and everything about how they need to like play better coming up this week, and he's smiling. What's up his sleeve? No.
Not much.
But back to what I was saying before the news of David Bell's firing. So Kansas City needs to definitely play their best brand of baseball this last week. I mean, as you just stated, they are tied for the last wild card spot, which, I mean, they will still get in technically with the extended playoff. So they would still technically get in even if they're still tied with Detroit. However, if Minnesota is to, for whatever reason, come back and Kansas City is to lose, then they would lose their spot. So, yeah. So as it stands right now, I'm looking at the actual wildcard standings as I speak. The Orioles have the number 1 spot at 86 and 70. The Royals have the number 2 spot, tied with Detroit at 82 and 74, and then the Twins are right outside of that with 81 and 75. So I believe that, yes, they do need to play their best brand of baseball this last week. Really need to put up or shut up, for lack of better terms, for the Royals. So hopefully they put up. I definitely want to see these guys in the postseason. I haven't seen them in the postseason for quite a while, so it'd be fun to see the Royals back again especially going up against a very good Orioles team on the road. Matt, do you have any thoughts on any of what we just said?
If you would have told me after the All-Star break that the Detroit Tigers would be tied for a wild card spot right now, I'd probably say that you were on something.
Yeah.
That there's something wrong up there. But I'm impressed, and I think it's ironic. You said the last game that Baez played was the 22nd, ironically against the Cubs.
Hmm.
But it's great to see them playing good baseball because they haven't had a very good team in quite a long time and have not been in contention for quite a long time. And with what you said about the Twins, they've got to play good baseball and the Royals too, because the Mariners are only 2 games out. Anything could happen. If the Royals and the
Yes.
Twins both lose, the Mariners could sweep and take them both out. Now, they've got a tough opponent in Houston starting tomorrow, but this is baseball. You never know what is going to happen.
Yeah. Very good points, and I think that's awesome that ironically that was Baez's last game was against the Cubs. That is pretty funny. Um excuse me. But to look on to the future of this thing, so winner of the Houston, as it stands right now, because we're looking at the bracket, and this is as of September 22nd, 2024. So when this uploads, this could be completely wrong. But um, as it stands right now, Houston would be having the home field advantage against the Tigers. So Houston would have the 3 seed, and Detroit would have the 6 seed. Detroit would be on the road for all 3 of those games. And the winner of that series would go and play the Guardians on the road to start the ALDS anyway. And as it stands right now on the other end of the AL side, the bracket, the 5th seeded Royals would be on the road against the 4th seeded Baltimore Orioles, and the winner of that would go on and play the number 1 seed New York Yankees in the ALDS on the road to start. So, 2 very, very, very tough opponents to go up against, even after the wild card side of things. But it is baseball; anything can happen. Teams go on runs all the time. Arizona Diamondbacks last season, Washington Nationals 2019, just to name a few, for the wild card teams that really sparked up and got hot at the right times. So anything can happen. I'm excited to watch this AL side. If I were to predict the winner coming out of this side, I'm still sticking with my prediction that I've been stating with. I believe it's going to be Cleveland coming out of this. I think that they're the most talented team personally out of this side. Don't get me wrong, I think New York's a very talented team. I think the Orioles are a very, very talented team. Houston can make some noise. Anybody really could on this side, but I believe that Cleveland is the best team. May not be record wise, but I believe they had the most versatile talent, and I believe that they are the biggest threat. Anybody have any opposing opinions to come out on the AL side?
I don't really think I have anything, honestly. I mean, you pretty much hit the nail on the head. I mean, I feel like a lot of people say that if New York and LA makes it to the playoffs, that's going to, like, feed millions or whatever. But at the same time, I feel like I don't see New York making it because they just have a really bad track record of even making it into the playoffs. I mean, how many times have they been bounced by Houston, or how many times have they even just like gotten destroyed by like little teams in the wild card? I mean, it's just
You're not kidding.
no, I'm not.
Yeah, that's definitely been their kryptonite. It seems like anytime they faced against Houston in the ALCS, ALDS, whenever it may have been, and they just always seem like as of late they've been getting bounced out. I mean, they haven't made a World Series in 2009, same year that they also won it. Um, so yeah, very kind of a championship drought for the team that has the most championships in the MLB. So, Matt, anything else to add before we move on to the NL?
I think I could partially agree with you on Cleveland. I think they're just a very good team, and the Well, like you said, the Yankees haven't really done anything since '09, since they last won. And the only thing I would say is I think maybe Baltimore has a chance to shock everyone. But if that doesn't happen, then Cleveland's the team to watch.
Yeah, I think I agree with you there. I think that out of all the wild card teams, I think that Baltimore is probably the biggest threat. Personally, I mean, don't get me wrong, the Houston Astros always seem to make something happen in the postseason. They're magical as of the last 10, 15 years in the postseason, it seems like. But outside of them, I don't really see any of the other wild card teams. No offense to the Royals and the Tigers as of now. I don't really see them as the bigger threats. Um, Now I could be wrong. KC could go out, shock the world, sweep the Orioles, and go and sweep the Yankees in the ALDS for all I know. Now, do I think that's going to happen? I highly doubt it, but who knows? Like, excuse me, like we say all the time, baseball's random, and that's what makes it so special. So, we'll move on to the National League side of things. So, as it stands right now on the National League side of things, the wild card teams up top would be the Diamondbacks and the Brewers, with the Brewers having the home field advantage, and then the winner of those two teams would go on and play the Phillies in the NLDS. And then on the lower half of the bracket, we've got the Mets and the Padres, and the Padres would have home field, and the winner of that would go on and play the Dodgers in the NLDS. So, um, any thoughts on these teams?
I think it's kind of crazy that a 90 win team is in the wild card. The Padres have 90 wins and they're in the wild card race. Man, that is insane. What's even more insane is the fact that three teams from the AL or not AL West, NL West are in the playoffs. I mean, with San Diego, Arizona, and the Dodgers. Um, we're actually, I mean, if it continues the way it is, would see a repeat of a matchup with Milwaukee. Isn't it? You said Milwaukee and Arizona facing off against each other, or
Correct. Yes.
yeah, so it'd be a rematch between those two from last year, and then the winner would face uh, Philadelphia. I mean, personally, with as good as Milwaukee's been, I don't see them getting beat again by Arizona. But crazier things have happened. You know, baseball's random. But you know, the Dodgers are still on their tear. I mean, look at how Shohei's been doing. I mean, that's a little terrifying to say the least. I mean,
Yeah.
it seems like he can't be stopped. I mean,
Yeah. I mean, with the way that Shohei Ohtani's been playing, Mookie Betts has been playing, me personally, and I mean, this is nothing against those other teams. I think it's the Brewers and the Dodgers that are going to be coming down to the NLCS. With those two being on opposite sides of the brackets now, I think that this is the time for them to meet in the NLCS finally. Because it seems like for the last couple of years, it's been like the Brewers would be the lower end of the wild card, or the middle of the road wild card team. And they'd be meeting the Dodgers, and yeah, I mean that's just usually how it would go. And they just meet in the NLDS, and it seemed like he'd never actually get more of a. I'm not saying the DS is not a heated competition, but compared to the championship series, that's definitely a higher stakes. There's more games involved. Seems like there's excuse me. Seems like there's more fans involved as well. With either side, you really get to see what the ballpark atmospheres are like in um in all the cities that are involved in the postseason. But yeah, I if I were to make my prediction, I do believe that the it's going to be the Brewers and the Dodgers in the championship series. So I'm switching it up a little bit. I said Philadelphia, I think, was the strongest team, and I still think that they have a shot at beating Milwaukee. I'm not saying it's going to be a cakewalk for Milwaukee all the way through, but I mean, the Brewers literally tonight rallied being down 8 runs and won the game. With this momentum going into the postseason, that's gonna be hard to stop. I think. I mean, teams get hot at the right time, and things just start clicking. I mean, I think that also too that the Padres and the Mets, that'll be a good little wild card series, and I do think that the winner of that will give the Dodgers a run for their money in the division series. But like I said, the way that the Dodgers have been playing right now, I think that they are just on a tear and they are set on a mission. Matt, anything else to add in the NL side of things?
Um, I think my prediction is I think Philly goes back. I think that they still are the strongest team over LA just because we know LA's track record in the postseason. It's not too great,
Very true.
truthfully, over the past 10 years. And I just think that Philly has that want to win, and I think they can get it done. And I think it'll be Phillies Dodgers in that NLCS. And then from there we'll see who. And for who knows, for all we know, the Mets could make it in and they could go all the way. Because like we've stated before, baseball is crazy.
Yeah.
And as of right now, my bold prediction from a few weeks ago is correct. I said the Mets would take that final spot, and it's starting to look like they could.
Yep. Yeah, I agree. Um, and the Phillies too. I will kind of play a little bit of devil's advocate here too, though. The Phillies as well. I mean, I'm not saying that you're wrong about the Dodgers track record because the Dodgers track record has not been the best as well in the playoffs, but it seems like Philly kind of has a little bit of that little brother syndrome right now. It seems like they get all the way to the big series, and then it's just like they fumble the bag. Like I believe it was it last season they made it to the CS and then they got destroyed. Couldn't even make it through, or was it the division series and they lost? I can't remember. And then the year that they went to the World Series all the way through, and then they lost to Houston.
I think it was.
They made it to the CS last year, but lost in Game 7 to the Diamondbacks.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was
So I
I was
mean,
getting confused.
a little bit of an unexpected there. I mean, and that's nothing against Philadelphia, but like they also are kind of in a little bit of a championship drought. They have not won since '08. So I mean, it's kind of put up or shut up time for them a little bit. I mean, are they going to prove that they're the team to beat in the National League over LA, or are they going to fold? Time will tell. But um I do think that the Phillies are a strong candidate, and I'm not saying that they're a bad team to pick. Just I think that the way that LA is playing right now is unbelievable coming towards the end of this year. I mean, Shohei, Otani, that being one of the first players of a 50, well, actually the only player with a 50-50 season. Pretty incredible. I know that we say that he gets all the credit all the time on ESPN, which I will never disagree with. He's always the one that gets talked about, but pretty extraordinary season, and I believe that he just sealed his ticket for the MVP award this year. So,
Oh yeah, no doubt.
um, so yeah, that's my 2 cents on it. But yeah, I do agree with you, Matt. The Phillies are not a bad pick to pick there. So, if I had to pick like a little dark horse pick, I mean, I'll stand with my little pick at the Brewers. I think that they're the most dangerous wild card team personally to make the most noise. Like I said, coming back down from 8 runs today, September 22nd. You know, that's extraordinary to have right before the postseason. That's that momentum you want going in, and I think that's the momentum that they need to beat Arizona, beat Philadelphia, and then possibly go up against LA and give them their best shot. So look out for them, maybe. And if you guys got a dark horse pick at all,
I don't know that I have a dark horse pick. Well, I know is that Tuesday's going to get exciting because the Mets and Braves are facing off against each other, and that's going to determine. I feel like that'll be like down to the wire. It's going to determine who's going to make it in.
playoff atmosphere before the playoffs. I like it.
Yeah, there's definitely
Yeah.
definitely going to be some tensions during that game.
Yep. because as it stands right now, the Braves are 2 games out. So, like we have stated, this race is not over with. So this is the week before the playoffs. So a lot of things can definitely change. But figured we would look in the postseason outlook. All right. We'll go ahead and we'll move on to our next topic. So, next topic is the NFL standings so far. So, I guess we'll just we'll kind of run through the divisions really quickly. Um, hopefully, we like to talk. So, um, we'll look in the AFC first. So, AFC East. So, Matt, this is your division, but I'll speak on my thoughts before we open the floor up. AFC East kind of panning out to be a little bit of a interesting race. I did not, no offense to any Jets fans. I mean, I'm a Giants fan, so I'm not a big fan of the Jets, but kind of put you guys down a little bit. I didn't really think that you were going to be much of a threat in the East, but as of right now, Aaron Rodgers is playing very good ball. I think that their win against the Patriots this last Monday was very, very good. They needed it. Or sorry, last Thursday. They were a Thursday night game, weren't they? Yes. Correct me if I'm wrong. Their Thursday night game.
Who was it?
Patriots and Jets were.
Yes, that was Thursday.
I think so.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, I said Monday night. That's my fault. Monday night was the Eagles and the Falcons. So my bad.
Yes.
Correction. So I'm human. We make mistakes here. So yeah, the Jets Pats game was very. I mean, it was just a dominant showing from the Jets. I mean, Aaron Rodgers played like his old self. I think that they're on pace to have a decent year. As far as the Dolphins go, I'm a little shocked. I mean, I know that they just had the big injury with Tua. They also just had their backup quarterback, go down today, so they're playing with a third string quarterback out there. So kind of feeling for the Dolphins fans. My fellow host here, Matt, as well. I'm kind of feeling for him a little bit. Matt, what's your thoughts on this so far?
One word, pain. Very, very much just pain. I honestly don't even. Oh, well, it looks like I know who our third string is. His name is Tim Boyle. I know
Oh,
nothing.
the former Jet,
Oh,
actually.
I thought the
well,
name sounded familiar.
I'm not liking our odds right now, truthfully. Um, it's not looking very good unless Tua can come back after the 4 games on the injured list, which I don't think he should. I think he should probably just honestly take the rest of this year off and recover before he even thinks about stepping onto the field again.
Yeah,
Just for his sake and his family's sake.
yeah, I've got to somewhat agree with you there. I mean, like the fact that he has suffered this many concussions in his career is just devastating. Because I mean, when he's out there, me personally, I believe that he's a very good quarterback. Now, is he worth the money that he's being paid? No, I don't think so. But I still think that he is a good quarterback and somebody that the Dolphins rely on, especially with their dynamic offense of Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, um, Devon Achan, and Mostert whenever he's active and healthy. You know, all those guys, they're all playmakers. And Tua is the guy that's supposed to lead that offense. But when he's not out there on the field, I feel like you get that. I mean, as with any starting quarterback, if they're within the average to pretty good range of rating with a quarterback, you feel the difference. You really do. So I think that if I'm the Dolphins right now, hang in there. You know, hang in there. It's a long season. This is technically week 3 as of today. So you've got time. But I do feel for him because it is going to be a battle now. Now that the Jets and the Bills are really taking advantage of this, I feel like it's going to be a battle if the Dolphins want to try and make any type of noise and possibly make it to the postseason and try and do anything. So hopefully Tua can come back. Hopefully he can lead them to a successful year because that's what I'd want to see. They were actually my pick to win the division this year. over the Bills and the Jets. So we'll see how that goes. Caleb, Matt, any last thoughts to add before we move on to the AFC West?
Don't
Okay.
really got anything.
All right. So we'll move on to the AFC West. So as of right now, Chiefs are technically the number one team, and are they winning their game at the moment? I think yes, they are. They're up
It's
22 to
22
14.
14.
Yep, 22-14, and the third quarter is almost over. So they're pending they hold on to this lead, they're going to be still leading the division, and they will be 3-0. Above the 2-1 Chargers, 1-2 Broncos, and 1-2 Raiders. So I don't want to say not much of a surprise to see the Chiefs number one, because I fully expected them to be the leaders of their division, but to be undefeated 3 weeks in is a little bit of a shocker to me. I mean, still a questionable call week one. I know we talked about it in our previous podcast that won't be uploaded, unfortunately, because of the corrupted audio. But we talked about how it was a game of inches. Isaiah Likely coming down with the ball and was literally out of bounds by a toe. Unfortunate for Ravens fans playing the Chiefs, but I fully expected the Chiefs to still be in the lead for this division. However, I'm not gonna say shocked, because Jim Harbaugh's won everywhere he's went, but I'm kind of a little shy. I guess, for lack of better terms, I'm a little shocked to see the Chargers at number 2 within the division. I know that the Raiders don't have a very good quarterback leading them. The Broncos have a rookie quarterback with Bo Nix, who has not been playing the best right now, unfortunately for them. But Jim Harbaugh, I mean, I got to give it to him. Like I just said, he's won everywhere he's went. Michigan, the 49ers. He's turning lots of teams around. So he's doing what Jim Harbaugh does best. I mean, he turns football teams around. And the Chargers last year were not a super good football team. So I think he's hopefully bringing them back into the playoff race, back into being a competitive football team, and hopefully competing against the Chiefs very well. They did take a loss today to the Steelers, 20-10, and you could argue that the two opponents that they played are not very good, with the Raiders and the Panthers. But yeah, they will be tested next week, as they do play the Chiefs at home on the 29th. So guess we will be looking forward to that game here on Field and Diamond Talks. Definitely going to see how that pans out. Any thoughts on the AFC West, fellas?
No, I don't really got anything. I mean, I guess I'm not really surprised that the Chiefs are up top. To say, I'm really good. I'm happy to see that the Chargers are doing good, because it's definitely good to see them doing good and having a turnaround, especially after how rough that their start's been. I remember seeing a thing that said Justin Herbert's career just started, but it looks like he's running out of time. And I feel like maybe now that he has a good coach in Harbaugh, I feel like maybe he can turn back the clock and really get going, because he's a good quarterback. It's just I don't think he had the right tools around him, especially on the coaching side. But now that he's got Harbaugh there, and they're trying to get him all these key pieces and everything, I feel like he might be able to turn things around.
Right. Matt, anything else to add on the West?
No, not really. I'm also not surprised that the Chiefs were up top.
Yeah, I mean, as I've stated before, it's the Chiefs League. We're just in it. But moving on to the AFC North. This, I will say, in my opinion, this is the division that has shocked me the most so far in the AFC. Steelers are 3-0, and they're up on top. Did not expect Pittsburgh Steelers to be coming out swinging like this. Got to give it to them a little bit, though. They beat the Falcons week 1, 18-10. Beat the Broncos week 2, 13-6, and then they just beat the Chargers, which we just got done talking about, 20-10. And they have a game against the Colts next week, which is a very winnable game. So they could very well be starting out 4-0 to start the year, possibly even 5-0 the week after because they're playing the Cowboys. The Cowboys kind of been up and down. Um, Pretty exciting for Steelers fans. I'll get the props there, but personally, I thought this is the Ravens' division to lose this year. I thought the Ravens were going to run away with it with their dynamic offense. And don't get me wrong, they've had some very tough opponents the very tough opponent week one, I should say, losing to the Chiefs. Like I said, game of inches. We talked about that in our podcast. Excuse me, had an upset loss against the Raiders by 3 points the week before, and then they walked away with their first win today, just barely, in Arlington against the Cowboys today, beating them 28-25. And I'll have a funny topic to talk about today on that one when we get to the Cowboys. I've got something to say about them, but moving on, the Ravens, they've got it tough. They have a tough couple of patch of games coming up here. They got the Bills at home next week. They've got the Bengals on the road, which the Bengals are actually they have not won a game yet this year. They're 0-2 as well, and they play tomorrow against the Commanders, so hopefully that'll be their first win. And then the Browns, they actually just lost to my favorite team today, the Giants, so a little surprised there. But 3 weeks in, I mean, like I said, I'm a little shocked that the Steelers are undefeated and that they are the leaders of that division because I could have swore that the Ravens were going to be running away with it with their dynamic offense they have. Thoughts on that, fellas?
I mean, Justin Fields has played all the games for the Steelers, hasn't he?
Yes, believe so.
I feel like maybe he might have hit his rhythm. Maybe they don't need Russell Wilson after all. I mean, I saw a thing that said maybe with Tua being out, maybe the Dolphins should get on the phone with Pittsburgh and see what they'd want for Russell Wilson. I mean, he's still got some left in the tank. I mean, he's a good quarterback. He led the Seahawks to their first ever Super Bowl when he was literally in his second year, and I mean, he proved that he still had the talent whenever he was with I almost said Detroit, with Denver. So I mean, if they're in need of a quarterback, I know he probably wouldn't. I mean, I don't know why they wouldn't at least entertain the offer. Just get on the phone and ask, see what they want. I mean, it sure beats trying to call about Bryce Young.
Right. Yeah, as far as that statement goes, I mean, I'm not saying I disagree with you. That's not necessarily the end of the world for options right there. But just from talking to buddy of mine, Jacob, who's the Broncos fan and who had to watch him play for the Broncos, he was literally listening to their podcast, the Broncos team podcast. I'm not sure exactly what it's called, but he was listening to it, and he had been telling me that Sean Payton had to literally dumb the offense so far down for Russell Wilson to even run it. So that's not a good sign coming from one of the better coaches of all time. I mean, some people like to claim Sean Payton's pretty overrated. Personally, I think he's one of the better coaches of all time that I've ever seen coach in the NFL. That's just me. But yeah, that's I wouldn't say it's a bad idea for the Dolphins to possibly reach out to the Steelers, see what they might want. But as far as for them moving on from him as a backup option so quickly is just kind of that's almost like a real big shot in the back to him. So I don't know what that would do to his morale. I don't know what that would do for the team. So we'll see what happens moving forward, but not necessarily a bad idea for the Dolphins to go after Wilson. I agree. Matt, anything on the AFC North?
I don't know what's more shocking to me, the Steelers being undefeated or the fact that they have allowed the least amount of points in all of the AFC.
That is very true. They have only allowed 26 points.
Closest to that would be the Chargers, who have only allowed 33.
Yep. Very true. Okay, we will move on to our last division, which is the AFC South. I don't want to say this one's kind of like the South is always a wild card for me, especially now with the amount of talent that's down in the South. You've got C.J. Stroud and that huge crew of offensive playmakers and their very good defense down there. And then you got the Colts, who, as I stated, they've got all those guys coming back. Anthony Richardson coming back for his first full year, and the Jaguars, Trevor Lawrence, and all those guys that are there. So that's kind of a tough division. But the fact that the Jaguars haven't won a game yet kind of shocks me a little bit. They did lose to the Dolphins, tough loss week 1 by 3 points. They lost to the Browns. Lost to the Browns by 6 points. So 2 tough losses there. And then they have the Bills tomorrow. So that's going to be a very tough game. Not necessarily unwinnable, but it's going to be tough, especially on the road playing Buffalo. Buffalo is one of the tougher teams to play whenever you're facing somebody on the road. But am impressed with the Texans so far. Had a really good game against the Bears the other night. Played very well against the Colts week 1. Kind of got shell-shocked today by the Minnesota Vikings, though, I will say today. Huge loss, 34-7. Now, they're going to be one of the teams that I talk about as well, the Minnesota Vikings, that I'm super impressed with when we get to the NFC North, which will be coming up here in just a few minutes. But I do believe that the Texans are still a very good team. I think that they're going to be the team that everybody was predicting that they were going to be winning the South. C.J. Stroud being one of the better quarterbacks in the AFC, like we've stated. But yeah, that's pretty much my 2 cents on this AFC South. Not really a whole lot to talk about. Pretty much outside of the Jaguars not winning a game, pretty much is about what I predicted. So, any thoughts on the South at all, fellas?
No, I really don't got anything. I mean, you basically put it the way I would have put it.
Gotcha. Shut off my fan really quick. Sorry about that. So, if we don't have any thoughts on that, we will go ahead and we'll move on to the NFC. So, oh boy, the NFC East. What a very bad division, in my opinion. Not that I thought it was going to be a pretty birthday party or anything, but I thought it was, man. I thought it was going to be at least a little bit better. So, Eagles are up on top so far. I think they're frauds, personally. They've barely won every single one of their games that they played. So they're 2-1. They barely lost to the Falcons on Monday. Barely beat the Saints today. Barely beat the Packers week 1. I think they're frauds. Like I said, I don't think that I mean, I'm not saying that they're not going to win the division. I think the Cowboys have a shot at winning the division. I don't think they're very good either. I don't really know what to say about this division outside of it's just bad. It is bad. I mean, and I hate saying that because I'm a Giants fan and the Giants are in this division, but the Giants are a bad team. I mean, we beat Cleveland today, which is a little unexpected after losing to the Vikings week 1, losing to the Commanders, who, excuse me, they didn't even score a single touchdown and we still lost. I don't know how, but we did. I mean, it's disappointing. I mean, to see a division like this, I think this is the worst division in football in my eyes. So, not really a whole lot to say on this division outside of I think that the Eagles will still win it, but I don't think that they're, for lack of better terms, I don't really think they're worth a damn in the NFC. So that's all I have really to say about them. The Cowboys might catch them, and even then, I still don't think they're worth a damn. So that's all I have on that. Any thoughts on the NFC East?
I mean, the Eagles are just I feel like the Eagles will come up with it, but I feel like they'll just push their way into winning the division. They almost pushed their
Pretty
way.
accurate.
I mean, it's like I understand why they do it because it works, but it's just so cheap. It's just I'm just gonna shove you forward as hard as I possibly can and hope that it works. And somehow it works every single time. It's just I don't understand. It just aggravates me every
It's I
time.
mean it's a cheat code. It's a cheat code. I mean I respect it. I respect it that teams can't stop it. I'll give them that, but I'm with you a little bit. It's cheap yards. Matt, anything on the NFC East?
Nope. I don't think I do.
Okay. We'll move on to the NFC West. So Seahawks actually this division. Caleb, a little unexpected, I believe, in all of our eyes a little bit. There he is with the B-Wag jersey. I like it. Um, so Seahawks won their first game of the year against the Broncos. A little bit of a shootout, 26-20. Then beat the Pats in overtime, 23-20 the week before this one. And then today came up with the big win against the Dolphins, who I don't want, for lack of better terms, I don't want to call them helpless, but they were a little bit helpless today without Tua. I'll give them that. But they beat them 24-3. So little in my eyes shocking that they are at the top and the 49ers are at the bottom. So that's got to feel really good. Caleb, as I know that you absolutely love the 49ers.
Oh
Um,
yes, my
so
favorites.
thoughts on how your team's doing so far, Caleb?
Didn't expect to see us in this spot, honestly. I mean, I feel like it's kind of strange being in this spot. It feels almost like, you're here, but you don't understand how you got here. I mean, I feel like we've kind of gotten lucky. Things have just gone our way. I mean, you know, the way they played against the Broncos, they didn't deserve to win. I mean, it was sloppy as well against the Patriots, but I think we came up lucky with an interception and were able to just get far enough downfield to kick it because we knew that it would, next score wins the game after that once they turned it over. And then today, I mean, if Tua was in that game, I don't think we win. I feel like if you simulate that game 9 times out of 10, I feel like the Dolphins will come up with a victory. I think we just got lucky that Tua wasn't throwing the ball for Miami because I was watching that game and there was a really bad pass that got made. I mean, I know Gino got hit, of course, when he made the throw, but he threw it right to I don't know who it was in the Dolphins, but he got it down, I want to say, to the Seahawks 5, and somehow the defense stopped them and held them to a field goal. That was the only 3 points they had on the day. So
Right.
it's just kind of, I mean, it's just one of those things. It's like, you're just kind of shocked that you've made it this far. And, I mean, it's crazy looking at the rest of the division. Everybody's 1-2 except for the Seahawks. They're 3-0, but they also haven't played anybody else in the division. So it's kind of it's kind of pointless. I mean, meanwhile they've all. I want to say that I think the. Okay, no, everybody's played each other in the division this far, so the Seahawks are the odd ones out. It's just kind of. It seems like it's not really worth much. It seems it's kind of cheap. I mean, not saying that we didn't earn the 3 victories we got, but it seems kind of cheap knowing that we're taking out different teams in completely different divisions. Meanwhile, our own division's currently killing each other, trying to score. But I guess it's kind of a one way to look at it would be let them take each other out, and then we can swoop in for the kill. But I don't know. We'll just see how it pans out. I don't
Yep.
know who we play next week.
Actually, I have the Lions coming
Oh
up on
Jesus.
Monday Night Football in Detroit. So
Well,
I believe that's going to be your toughest opponent yet. If I had to predict, that may be your first loss.
uh,
Now the Detroit Lions have actually been a little bit of a shocker to me as well. they ended up actually losing to the Bucks the other day. But we'll get to that team in just a second. I'll put my ending thoughts on the West, and then we'll move on. But the team that's really, I don't want to say shocked me, because they were one of the picks that I had to be kind of a dark horse playoff pick. But it's the Arizona Cardinals. I mean, if you look at every single one of their games, they have either dominated, because they absolutely destroyed the Rams last week, or they were within a score of the game. They lost to the Bills week 1 on the road, 34-28. That's a very hostile environment to be playing in. Killed the Rams week 2, just as I said, 41-10. And then they just lost to the Lions at home today, but they lost by one score. Lost by 7 points, 20-13. If I'm the Cardinals, nobody picked us to be good this year. And we're hanging in there with pretty solid teams. I mean, the Lions and the Bills are no slouches. They're good. The Rams, they were good last year. I mean, they're no slouches. They've got a very winnable game coming up next week against the Commanders, and then they've got a game against the 49ers. I'm not sure if CMC will be back. Just looking down their list: Packers, Chargers, Dolphins, Bears, Jets, Seahawks. You know, there's some winnable games on this list. I think that they could definitely come future be up there for the possible. I'm not saying they're going to win the division, but they could be in there for the possible wild card team. We'll see how it pans out. As far as the biggest shock in this division, I think the 49ers are the biggest shock. I mean, battling injuries like crazy. They're not really playing 49er football as I should say. I mean, when you compare it to last season, I mean, making it all the way to the Super Bowl, pretty much beating every single team in sight, pretty handily for the most part throughout the year too. Outside of a few games, you know, you expected them to be top of the line again, especially after making the Super Bowl. But I mean, they're 1-2. They're tied with the entire rest of the division outside of the Seahawks. And they lost today to the Rams 27-24. So that was the Rams' actual first win of the year. Have a very winnable game against the Patriots. And then, as I stated with the Cardinals, they play them at home. And then they play the Seahawks. So outside of the Patriots, back-to-back divisional opponents. That's it's gonna be tough for them. I mean, once CMC comes back, he's gonna, as I stated with the quarterbacks, you know, when you lose your starting running back, that's arguably the best running back in the entire league when healthy, you know, you feel the difference. So I feel like they're gonna be a team to be reckoned with. Don't count them out yet. But if I'm a Seahawks fan like Caleb is, I'm pretty happy with how the division stands right now. I'd take the playoffs started today type of deal. So,
Oh yeah.
Matt, any thoughts on the NFC West before we move on to the North?
Just kind of surprised at the downfall of the Rams, and I think that if CMC was playing, that it might be a different story for the 49ers. Maybe. I think just like any other sport, it could be different every day, but I think that he is a big outlier on why they are 1-2, tied with the rest of the division. That's about all I got.
Gotcha. Okay, so we will move on to the NFC North. I would put to argue that if this division plays like they have been the last couple of games, this will be the best division in all of football. Because holy smokes, you got the Vikings going 3-0, and I already said I was going to talk about them, so I'm going to talk about them first. Who picked them to, well, I shouldn't say who picked them to beat the Giants. But who picked them to beat the 49ers and then absolutely mollywop them against the Texans? Not me, that's for sure. I didn't. I thought that they would maybe be 1-2 to start the. I thought they'd be in the Bears position where they were 1-2, but instead they're 3-0 with Sam Darnold and they're rolling. Maybe this is what he needed. Maybe this is like the who was the. Oh goodness, this is gonna make me very mad.
Oh, I know who's.
Minneapolis Miracle quarterback Case Keenum. That's who it is. Maybe
Oh,
he's
never mind.
The Case Keenum of Christmas Past or something.
That's not who I thought you were gonna say.
Who were you thinking I was gonna say?
Joshua Dobbs.
Oh, geez, yeah, Josh Dobbs. Well, he might be the Case Keenum, as I was saying, of Christmas Past. No, I know it's a very long season. We're 3 games in. It might be a little bit of an overreaction, but if I'm a Vikings fan, I'm super happy. I mean, got a couple tough stretch of games coming up. You got the Packers on the road next week, Jets at home. So I mean, and you got Aaron Rodgers at quarterback with the Jets. I mean, he's very familiar with playing in Minnesota. So I mean, it's a tough stretch. And then you got the Lions at home. So their schedule is not very forgiving. But I mean, if they can prevail and if they can keep winning games, this could be a very scary team. As far as the Lions go, I fully expected them to be playing about what they're playing at now. I think they had a tough loss against the Bucks. They had a super good game against the Rams week 1. They went into overtime. They ended up beating them. Beat the Cardinals today on the road, so that's good for them. They have the Seahawks coming up on Monday night next week. So going to be a dogfight there. They've got the Cowboys on the road. That'll be a tough game. As I stated earlier, the Vikings and Lions will play. So, yeah, I'm looking at these like divisional games within this. I mean, it could go either way. And then you got the Packers that are 2-1 as well. I didn't expect them to be 2-1. I figured they'd be lucky to be even having wins right now with Jordan Love gone. Super impressed with how Malik Willis has played for him. And I know that they said that Love might actually be coming back this upcoming week against the Vikings, which would be huge. So they were thinking that his injury was not as bad as what it was. So that's good. As far as the Bears go, a little disappointing start. They had a really tough stretch of games to start the year. Beat the Titans in a week 1 defensive battle, in my opinion, because Caleb Williams did not play very well. Caleb Williams once again didn't play super well against the Texans. They lost 19-13 on the road week 2, and then today had probably his best offensive showing, but his defense couldn't get the stop. Very end of the game. So that was a little bit of a tough loss for him in Indianapolis. How it stands for the Bears, they got a couple of stretch of winnable games here. They got the Rams at home, Panthers at home, Jaguars at home. So 3 straight home games. That'll be good for them. And then they play the Commanders on the road. Go to Arizona. Pretty good stretch of winnable games these next few weeks for them. So that's good. They don't actually play a divisional opponent until it's like November 17th, and they're playing the Packers at home. So that's a good way to stretch it out. But then towards the end of the year, it looks like it's like division, non-division, division. So it might be a little tough for them at the end of the year. So not ideal, but hopefully they can stack some wins up against the not so good teams in my eyes, like the Panthers and the Pats. Jaguars might be one of the teams they might beat. Commanders, those are some teams that are definitely winnable games. Any thoughts on the North, fellas?
I don't know that I really have anything, honestly. I mean, it's just kind of disappointing. I mean, the start that the Bears had, you expected them to come out swinging, especially with the new quarterback, good receiving core and everything. And I mean, I even watched the game today, and I was just really disappointed with how they were performing. Caleb Williams kept overthrowing receivers and everything, and at one point, it looked like when he went on the sidelines, it looked like he was like getting mad at the receivers, and I'm like, they can't help that you're overthrowing them. You're the one that needs to know how to like how to throw it exactly to them. You can't just blame them for not being able to run 5 mile an hour faster to be there at an overthrown ball. Like that's not their fault. And then it's just, for a team that bolstered up so much, made all these moves, it's just something's not clicking, and I'm not sure what it is.
Yeah. Yeah, long season. I do think that the Bears still have a chance to climb up the ladder. I mean, we're 3 weeks in. These are all very early reactions. Things can definitely happen. Injuries might happen to other teams that might push them up the ladder. Um, you never know. Um, but as far as like Caleb Williams, like you were just saying, I'll kind of go off on him a little bit. Not sure if you guys saw the clip of him and Stroud after the game with the Texans and whatnot, but that was terrible. CJ Stroud, Texans quarterback, went to go try and give him a little bit of advice. Which I mean, I know that Stroud is a little young to still be giving advice, but I mean, at least being compassionate towards a rookie quarterback. He was literally in that position last year, and just giving him a little bit of advice about the game and whatnot. And Caleb Williams is just starting to walk away, just not even trying to listen to what he has to say and whatnot. Like he just seems like he's a super like he. It almost seems like Caleb Williams thinks that he's the superstar in his own mind, and that everybody should respect him as like, for lack of better terms, the second coming of Tom Brady. That's what I feel like he thinks he is when he's definitely not. Um, but if he has this mentality like this towards other people when it's not game time, he's gonna get humbled for it quite a bit. Um, there's been a lot of characters in the NFL like this that act really tough when they're really not, or act like they're super good when they're really not. Some prime examples would be somebody like Jerry Jeudy. No offense to former Broncos fans, but um, if you ever have seen the clip of Steve Smith or Agent 89 talking bad about him, it's pretty funny. Need to give that a clip watch if you have not seen that. But that's like the prime example that I have of that. Just players that aren't really super good and they just think like they're at the top of the world. And you see that in all sports. It's not just football, but yeah, Caleb Williams definitely needs to work on his attitude a little bit, I think, off the field. Um, Matt, any thoughts towards the NFC North or any other thoughts towards like maybe Caleb Williams or any of that you've seen?
Not right now.
Okay. So we will move on to our last division, the NFC South, and then we'll move on to the Wheel of Nostalgia and then favorite players. So NFC South, kind of an interesting division so far. I thought the Buccaneers were probably going to win the division, which they're technically tied with the Saints at the number one spot. That's the little bit of the shocker. I was not expecting the Saints to come out and play like they have been. I mean, really have been playing very good football. Um, I mean, obviously they killed the Panthers week one. Wasn't really surprised about that. I didn't really expect the Panthers to put up much of a fight. But the fact that they went into Arlington and beat the crap out of the Cowboys 44-19, and Alvin Kamara just ran all over them and they had no answers. That really shocked me. And then today just lost a really tough game against the Eagles at home. So that's a little bit of a tough one. Defensive battle. They lost 15-12, so not a lot of offense scored there. I know Saquon Barkley scored two of the touchdowns for the Eagles, so good on them, I guess. But pretty exciting if you're a Saints fan, I guess, for them to play so well. Got a tough stretch of games coming up. They got a divisional game against the Falcons on the road. Then they play at Kansas City, and they play the Buccaneers at home. So a little tough 3-game stretch. Two divisional opponents on almost back-to-back weeks. Might be difficult for them to pull some wins out there. But I do think that the Saints are they're a little bit of a shocker team. Like I said, I think the Bucks were supposed to be the team that was going to pick for this division. I didn't really expect this division to be very competitive, but if the Bucks and Saints have a good little battle, it kind of reminds me a little bit of like what the AFC East was last year, in my opinion. You know, Dolphins and Bills kind of slugging it out a little bit. It's kind of like the Saints and Bucks right now. So hopefully that's what that ends up being. And actually, they have the most points scored out of any NFL team with 103. So good on them. Any thoughts on the NFC South?
I don't really have much to say about it, honestly. I mean, the only thing I can say is that, I mean, maybe Andy Dalton's going to prove to be the answer for the Panthers. I mean, he had a good game, but at the same time, it was the Raiders, so, I mean, take that with a grain of salt, I guess, but we'll see how their next game goes for sure.
Yeah, you can only hope. Well, he is actually playing against his former team, the Bengals, so he might pop off really big there. You never know. And actually, did he play for the Bears? I want to say he played for the Bears at one point. Andy Dalton did. Matter of fact, we're going to do a little quick Google lookup. Yes, he plays the Bears as well. I'm almost positive he played for the Bears at one point in time. Almost positive. I might be crazy. I might be thinking of somebody else, but yep, 2021. He was a Chicago Bear. So yep, former team. Maybe he'll pop off. We'll see. Andy Dalton's back. That's all I know. Matt, any final thoughts before we move on to the wheel of nostalgia?
Not at the moment, no.
Okay. All right. Well, we will move on to the wheel of nostalgia. So I will go ahead and I will share my screen. We'll see who it will land on. So once again, if you didn't watch the beginning of this video, we did say that the audio file corrupted on our previous podcast. So you're noticing a name that is missing if you watched episode 3. It is not only Oscar Taveras' name, but also Whit Merrifield's name is gone. So we gave the quick little recap of what we discussed with him. We will not have him back on the list. Not to say that we will never talk about Whit Merrifield again, but we'll move on with these last 3 selections. So we will spin and we'll see who it lands on. So we'll go ahead. And it's gonna be one of my picks finally. Okay, so Eli Manning. Okay, so Eli Manning was my pick for the Wheel of Nostalgia, one of them at least. So as far as the nostalgia goes for Eli Manning, the big thing that I can say is like he was. I mean, for one, he was the quarterback that I grew up watching on the Giants. So I started watching football about the time that they were, when they were winning the Super Bowls in the later part of the 2000s and going to the Super Bowls, or getting close at least. So Eli Manning was the quarterback for him. And, you know, I looked at him as, you know, Tom Brady's kryptonite. He's the only quarterback in NFL history to beat him twice in a Super Bowl. So I will always say that he is Tom Brady's kryptonite, and Tom Brady never beat him. So it's one thing I can always have on the Pats fans and Tom Brady fans is that he never beat Eli Manning. I've always been a big fan of the Manning brothers in general. I liked watching Peyton Manning play. So Eli Manning was like, you know, he's like my second favorite Manning, I should say, but also, you know, like probably my favorite player of all time on the Giants offensively. A lot of people like to say that he's not a Hall of Famer. He's not. He was just very average. And you can say that about him. But personally, I think that he is a Hall of Fame worthy quarterback. You know, he won two Super Bowls. Matter of fact, I'm gonna pull up some of his stats just so I don't forget anything. So, yeah, so he was 4-time Pro Bowler. He was a 2-time Super Bowl champ. He was the Super Bowl MVP for both of those. He's Walter Payton Man of the Year. He had 366 touchdowns, 244 interceptions, and over 57,000 passing yards.
Jesus.
The 60% completion rating. I personally, I think that's a Hall of Fame worthy career. I like to compare him to guys like Kurt Warner. Kind of had the same style a little bit. Um, he has more Super Bowl championships than Kurt Warner. Um, or actually, it might be the same amount because I think he was actually the backup quarterback for him at one point in time. So technically, he got a ring. But um, all I really have I don't really have a ton else to say. I don't want to take up much more time, but I really think that a lot of people sleep on what this quarterback used to be. I think that he was very important in Giants history. Um, I mean, I looked at him as like the comeback kid and the guy that beat out everybody whenever they never believed in the team. Because I mean, think about it. The 2007 Patriots, that was the juggernaut. They were supposed to be the next 72 Dolphins, the team that went all the way without losing a singular game and winning the Super Bowl. And they almost did, except for the Giants. They didn't beat the Giants in the Super Bowl. They didn't get so many famous moments from him throwing the ball too. I mean, David Tyree helmet catch, Odell Beckham Jr. with the one-handed catch. So many scrambles to throw to a touchdown pass. Just he was awesome. He was really fun to watch, and that's all I really have to say about Eli Manning. Any thoughts on him before we move on?
I mean, I agree with you. I mean, if it weren't for him, I mean, there's a lot of things that wouldn't have happened. I mean, he was. I feel like he's honestly slept on a lot, for what he did for the Giants. I mean, he led them to 2 Super Bowls and everything, and he was there for a lot of the biggest moments in NFL history, like you said, like the one-handed catch from Odell Beckham. I mean, it's like unlike anything anybody's ever seen before, and Eli Manning was the one that threw it. And I know everybody tends to talk about Peyton Manning more than Eli Manning, but I feel like, Eli Manning's definitely like one of the greatest quarterbacks. And, I mean, he definitely had the game to back it up, that's for sure. I mean, sure, down the line, I mean, a lot of people probably thought that he wasn't really, like, he was just being carried by his name, but at the same time, those people that were saying that he was just carried by his name when he was getting towards the end of his career probably didn't know him for the quarterback that he was when he started in his prime. But yeah, that's really all I've got.
Yeah, I mean, just as you said, I mean, people are going to hear Manning, they're going to think Peyton before Eli, and that's just how it is. I mean, and all that's how I that's how I think. I mean, I'm not even. I wasn't a Broncos or Colts fan, but I mean, every time I hear Manning, I think Peyton first. I don't think Eli, but I still remember Eli for everything that he did for the Giants, for the organization, and just a good overall guy. I mean, I enjoy watching him and Peyton on Monday nights. They do a great job of broadcasting. Very knowledgeable guys too. Very funny to watch as well. So, and hopefully, it's their nephew, Arch Manning, or whatever his name is at Texas.
Yes.
Yeah, I want to say it's their nephew. So so Arch Manning is in Texas, and hopefully that Manning brother gets drafted into the NFL and he does some good things as well to carry on the legacy. Matt, any things to add on Eli Manning? I know that you didn't really watch football a ton around this time whenever he played, but anything that you got?
I really don't got nothing on him.
Okay. All right. So Eli Manning will be removed. So the final two that we have is Bobby Wagner and Addison Russell. So that's Caleb's pick and my pick. Once those two are done and talked about in the next two episodes, we will have a new set of names. If you want to have any suggestions, please put those in the comments. Haven't seen any so far, but it doesn't mean that we can have any more in the next couple of episodes. Would love to see some of your suggestions possibly added on. So, yeah. So that's the Wheel of Nostalgia. So I will end my screen sharing, and we will move on to our final topic, which is our favorite players of all time in the MLB and NFL. So, how I planned on doing this, essentially, we'll just each state our favorite players from each league, so the MLB and the NFL. Kind of talk about them a bit, why they're your favorite player. It could be a dad, like your dad or your mom's favorite player. It could be you grew up watching them, or that's one of the first players you ever remembered. Things like that. Or you could also just have played with them in maybe a video game or something, and you thought they were really cool to play with. I just think it's kind of a unique topic and cool for everybody to hear out there, and also it could be fun for people to get engaged in the comments as well for telling us your favorite player and seeing if maybe you agree with us, or if you think that our favorite players were absolute garbage, you can say that too. Whatever you'd like to leave in the comments, we encourage it. But I guess we'll kind of do like a popcorn type of thing, and we'll just start with the MLB. Everybody will say their MLB player, and then we will go to the NFL, do the same exact thing, and then we will wrap things up. So I'll start. So the MLB player. It's hard to just pick one singular player because I mean you've got hitters, you have pitchers, you've got people that were great defensive players, great hitters, some people that did both, some pitchers that threw super hard, some pitchers that threw slow and had good control. Some people were closers, some people were starters. There's lots of positions I could pick, but I think you both are already going to know the answer that I'm going to go with. And my favorite player of all time in the MLB is Greg Maddux. So, I'm sure you guys probably already guessed that. But so the reason why I pick Greg Maddux. So one of the main reasons why is, and Dad will remember this if he watches this one. So any of the times that I'd be in the vehicle with him, I'd always ask him. I'd say, "So who's your favorite player of all time?" And he'd always say two guys. He'd always be like, "My favorite hitter is Ryan Sandberg. My favorite pitcher is Greg Maddux." So two former Cubs, obviously. I mean, Greg Maddux is also known for being on the Braves in the '90s, but he did play for the Cubs earlier in his career. But I said, well, why Greg Maddux? I haven't really heard of him compared to guys, and this is when I was first starting to watch baseball. I said, whenever I talk to Matt or whenever I talk to Caleb, they always say that the greatest pitcher of all time to them is like Nolan Ryan or Randy Johnson. He says, well, those guys were good. He said, but they weren't pitchers. He said, those guys just tried to throw the ball past you as hard as they could. They weren't. He says, and that's nothing. He says that's nothing against them. He said Greg Maddux was the pitcher that would, for lack of better terms, kind of just mind boggle you up at the plate, because he would be able to locate, put things on the corners, change speeds, and he only threw 95 miles an hour, and he's still one of the best pitchers of all time. Just to name some of his stats off. So people kind of know the impact, and I'm looking him up as I say it. So he's obviously a Hall of Famer. He won the Cy Young Award 4 times. Was only a 1-time World Series champ in 1995. 8-time All-Star. He actually has the most Gold Gloves by any player ever at any position, with 18. He has the 4-time ERA title. He has a career 3.16 ERA. He has 355 career wins. And over 5,000 innings pitched. He's got 3,371 strikeouts. Another thing that really stuck out to me too, and this is like something that really kind of shocks me, and I'm not sure if any of you guys knew this or not. He ended his career with under 1,000 walks. Anyone want to take a guess at what it actually was? Some of you might actually know. Nobody? Okay. It was 999. Right under 1,000. And the cool thing about that is too, he actually in his last year he got 999 career walks like about halfway through the season, and he was still like as a start, and he was still starting for teams. And he's like, I can't get over 1,000, and so he strived to make sure that he did not get over 1,000 walks or right at 1,000 walks. He wanted to make sure he was underneath it. So those are some of the cool things about Maddox. That's why he's my favorite player. So yeah, guess we'll move on to whoever wants to go next. So popcorn, off to next favorite MLB player.
It's kind of hard sometimes picking like a favorite player of yours. You know, you kind of think like from your team's history and everything. You know, you try to think of who you've seen over the years and who you've seen highlights of. Me personally, I mean, if I were to have to pick my favorite MLB player, if I'm picking all time, I feel like I'd have to pick George Brett, and that's just for the reason that he embodied the greatness of baseball in Kansas City. I mean, he did so much for the Royals when he was with them. I mean, he was part of the the team, and I believe he was with the team in 1980 and then 1985 whenever they won the championship, and he was with us for a while. Started his career there, ended it there. You know, he was there the whole time. You know, never gave up, and he's still doing stuff for the Royals and with the Royals to this day. I mean, he constantly gives back to the community, and you know, honestly, it's kind of rare sometimes to see guys that do that. You know, that stick with a franchise and then stick with it that long term. But he's consistently done that, and it's really awesome to see that he's putting so much back into the community as a whole. And I mean, he's, I believe, the only Hall of Famer that's come from Kansas City. And he's the only one out of all the players we've had in our history. He's the only one that made the Hall of Fame, which I feel like there are some others that could definitely make it, but that's, you know, that's a whole different discussion. But out of, you know, just out of everything that he's done and he continues to do, I mean, there's just, it's hard not to, you know, like George Brett just for everything that he's been able to do.
Yeah, definitely. Um, so stuff for George Brett, Hall of Famer, MVP, 13-time All-Star. He was a Gold Glover, World Series champ in '85, 3-time Silver Slugger, 3-time batting title. He was the ALCS MVP. Over 3,000 hits in his career, 300 career average, over 300 home runs, over 200 stolen bases, 1,500 RBIs. Yeah, very good third baseman for the Royals all time. So yeah, I definitely agree with you. He was the spark in Kansas City, and what really makes what I feel like Kansas City a baseball town. Outside of the Negro Leagues, starting up in those areas in Kansas City, I feel like he is really one of the bright points in the history of that organization. So, Matt, we'll go ahead and we'll go on to your favorite player for the MLB.
I would have to say it would probably have to be Pujols, because just thinking back to when I first, maybe not watching completely, but when I first noticed the Cardinals was 2011 during the postseason, especially in the times that oh boy, he tore it up in that 2011 postseason, especially that 3-homer game he had against Texas. And I want to say either game 4 or 5, but just what he did for St. Louis in the first 11 years, and then what he did in his final year with us. Made me love not only who he is as a person. I think he's a very, very good person, and I think that maybe one day he might be leading the Cardinals as manager. I would hope, or in some capacity, he could be in that dugout, um, guiding these young kids to the future. But just his overall dominance in those years that he was with us was what always caught my eye.
Definitely a very special generational talent. Players like him do not come around often. Some of the stuff for Pujols: 3-time MVP, Rookie of the Year, 11-time All-Star, 2-time World Series, 2-time Gold Glove, 6-time Silver Slugger, batting title, NLCS MVP, 3-time Major League Player of the Year, and he's also a Clemente Award winner. Career stats: 3,384 hits, 703 home runs, 296 batting average, 2,218 RBIs. Well on his way to be a Hall of Famer. One thing I actually didn't know, and I'm just because I'm on Baseball Reference and I'm looking at this right now. He is actually the all-time career record holder for double plays grounded into with 426. So that's actually kind of interesting, but doesn't take away from his legacy. Definitely a very special player. Okay, so we will go ahead and we'll move on to the NFL for all-time favorite players. This one's tough too because I it's hard to pick between offense and defense, and who your favorite players might be. I've got a lot of favorite players at different positions, such as running back and wide receiver, and then on the defensive side, I got favorite defensive linemen, I got favorite linebackers, DBs, and whatnot. But I think overall, and actually a guy that I like to model my, I don't want to say like my playing style after. I was nowhere near this guy's capabilities and whatnot. This guy was an NFL player, but just like his intensity, like towards the game, and his passion and love for the game. That's like kind of how I model it off of. That's Ray Lewis. Never played for the Giants. Was an all-time Raven, but the dude was just different. I mean, different breed. I mean, intensity for the game all the time. You look up clips of him on the sidelines, just firing people up all the time. Look at any of his highlights. He's knocking dudes out. He's popping up after the play, playing games through torn triceps. I mean, he was just like you don't see players do that anymore. It seems like I feel like he was one of the last of a dying breed to do that at that linebacker position, at middle linebacker. So just one of the players that I really model a lot of my passion for football after. I mean, I'm a football coach. I have a lot of intensity in the game. I get really emotional about it, especially when your team's doing so well. I do a lot of the pregame speeches before my high school team goes out. I try and get the guys fired up. A lot of the time before I even go out there, I'm watching Ray Lewis speeches. I'm watching stuff that he says. I'm watching old highlights of him. And even now he still goes around. He does motivational speaking and everything else. He's just an awesome guy in general. Say what you want about his past and possible murder charges and whatnot and everything. Say what you want about that pass, but personally, as a football player, you can't get better than that, in my eyes, defensively. Some of his stats: Hall of Famer, 12-time Pro Bowler, 7-time All-Pro, Super Bowl MVP, 2-time Super Bowl champ. He was a Hall of Famer on the All 2000s team. 2-time Defensive Player of the Year. had 41 and a half sacks at that middle linebacker position, which is that's a really high number for a linebacker. Solo tackles, he had over 1,000. Matter of fact, he had over 1,500. He had 19 forced fumbles, 31 career interceptions, and 3 touchdowns. So, yeah, very good player. Led the league a lot of the times in solo tackles, or was in the top 5 a lot of the time. So, heck of a player. Just, yeah, that's all I really have to say about Ray Lewis.
And I guess I can go next. It's kind of difficult. Like I said, like you just said, picking a football player is so difficult because they all come and go so quick. It's kind of the same with baseball, though. It's just it seems like there's an ever revolving door of players just constantly, going in, coming out. Once one, decides to call it a career, there's always somebody waiting there to take his place. But I mean, for me personally, if I had to pick one of my favorite football players of all time, I'd have to go with a guy who was a big part of our successes and what led us to the Super Bowl. And that would be Cam Chancellor. And that's, I mean, if you ever look up videos of Cam Chancellor on the field, I mean, it was like watching, it almost looked like somebody was getting hit by like a bus because he was so quick and so powerful that by this time that they would realize what was happening, he was already on top of them and flattening them out. I mean, it was just quite something to see, honestly. And I kind of wish that you know he was still with the team, honestly. I mean, I know that you know I can't remember what caused him to end up calling it a career. I think it was maybe injury or something like that. I can't remember off the top of my head. It's been a long day. I'm kind of tired. But it's just when he was with us, he was always one to watch. I mean, I saw a joke that said, "Kids fear the boogeyman, but the boogeyman fears Cam Chancellor." So, I mean, I would be terrified to go up against him, and I don't know how a lot of these teams felt about facing him, but all I know is that he would cause havoc anytime he was out there. He would cause he would knock some people out for sure. I mean, some of those hits I was surprised whenever I would see them get back up after that. And I was just like, how are they still standing? Like, cuz it's just they go to make the catch and then there's this bolt of blue going past and then they're on the ground looking like they just gotten hit over the head with a sledgehammer. But yeah, he was something to behold for sure.
For sure. Yeah, Cam just one of the few memories that I have about I mean, I don't want to say few memories. I watched Cam quite a bit play, but one of the big memories I have of him was using, of course, whenever, this is when LOB was a thing, the big time Legion of Boom, but like Madden 25, I'd go and use the Seahawks online, and I'd use a Cam Chancellor over the middle. Anytime you would throw it over the middle, it was one of two things. You would either catch the ball and then fumble because Cam Chancellor would boomstick you and you would fumble the ball, or he would go and pick it off. It's one of the two things. And I just remember I would use him and I'd almost just put him in the middle linebacker spot. I would take him from the top of the safety where he's normally at. I'd move Earl Thomas back and I'd just walk him down and he'd play another middle linebacker spot and I just stick people with him almost every single time. And it was almost a fumble every play because he had 99 hit power, 99 tackling. Dude was just a beast back when he was playing. And a lot of people are kind of questioning whether or not he's also a Hall of Famer too. Defense is hard to kind of judge for Hall of Famers. I personally think that he has a good running for it. It's just the only thing that hurts him is the fact that he only played 7 years.
Yeah.
So.
And it was injury that took him out, wasn't it?
Yeah, I believe so. Yep. Yeah. Him and Earl Thomas both they both had those terrible injuries about at the same time because Cam stopped playing in 2017. I think Thomas had his injury in like 2019 or 2020, somewhere around there.
I
So
think it was 2019. Cause I remember he got carted off against the
yes,
Cardinals,
and
'cause that
did
was when
the
he flipped the bird to Pete
yeah, he
Carroll.
flipped the bird off to good old Pete. Oh man, yeah, that's kind of like where I saw the Seahawks downfall a little bit, but that's for another time. They're back on the come up though, so good for them. Um, all right. So Matt, you are the last one for favorite player for NFL. So I know that you haven't been watching for a ton of time, but you may have one already. So let's hear it. Matt, are you still with us?
Once again, I muted myself and forgot to unmute.
Oh, okay. I was like,
So that's my bad.
is he still here? Okay.
Hey, oh man, here I am talking to myself. Good lord. Um, yeah, I don't know if I quite have a favorite football player of all time, but if there was one guy I would choose, it's a guy I used in Madden all the time when I used to play the older games, and that would be Frank Gore. Just because I knew if I played with him that there was no doubt there was 20 rushing touchdowns that I was scoring in that game, no matter what. But also, looking at his stats, he was pretty darn good over his. Oh, how long did he play?
Quite a long time.
16,
I think the
16 years.
I think the Oregon Trail was just beginning when he started his career. So
So that's quite a long time. But but he'd be somebody I'd have to choose. I may give me a couple more years, and I'll probably have a favorite football player. But as of right now, he'd be my guy to choose.
gotcha. And yeah, Frank Gore will he will for sure be in the Hall of Fame. At least he definitely should be in my eyes. I mean, had a super long playing career. Started his career in 05, ended in 2020. Um, yeah, dude was just a beast. I remember him on the 49ers, especially whenever Harbaugh was taking over. That's right about the time when he was like slowly kind of creeping out of his prime a little bit. Still was doing pretty well, but not he wasn't doing terrible. So as far as what he goes with, he's believe third all time on the rushing yards list. I think he beat out Barry Sanders for third all time on the rushing yards list. I want to say I might be
Yes, he did.
wrong. Yes, okay. I thought so. Um, 81 touchdowns, 1,600 yards. Definitely a very very good running back all time. Loved watching Frank Gore play. So yeah. So that's all I have on him. Okay. Guess we can say that wraps up the podcast for Field and Diamond Talks. Don't forget to leave a like on this video, subscribe, hit the bell for the notifications for new videos dropping. Check out all the previous videos, such as the draft one that we just released the other day. And of course this one here, and we will be seeing you later on.
Yeah. One more thing before we actually do wrap it up here. We do have an announcement that we want to make real quick. So, for those that know, obviously we do talk about college football. We didn't really talk about it this podcast, but that's because we had other stuff that we really wanted to focus on. And plus, I mean, all of our games resulted in our teams beating the other teams to death, practically. I mean, at least that's how it was in my case, 56-0 against Kent State.
Yeah, the Fighting Irish beat Miami, Ohio, 28-3, I believe was the final score. So,
But anyways,
yeah.
So October 12th, we got some really, 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 really big games coming up. I mean, just to name a few, we got Texas, Oklahoma, Florida and Tennessee, Penn State and USC, Ohio State, Oregon, and then another one that I saw, Ole Miss and LSU. Um, so we're gonna do something that we've never done before, and it's gonna be a first. We are planning on doing a live show. We obviously won't be able to show the game, but we are going to have live reactions, and we'll have a ticker showing, you know, the score of the game as it updates live through Google or whatever that we use that day. um, it'll start. We don't know what time it'll start quite yet. We're working on getting, times for all the games and everything before we can actually give you a start date or start not start date. It's obviously starting the 12th. Start time, I mean. And we're going to work on buffing out the details and everything, and we'll update you all as time progresses. And on October 12th, we're going to have our first ever live show, fully, you know, fully live, fully just. It's gonna be something. It's gonna be a spectacle. It's gonna be a spectacle, that's for sure.
Very excited. Very, very excited. So can't wait for it. So be on the lookout for that October 12th. So any other announcements to be made? Sorry, I almost forgot about that announcement. That's actually really big.
No, it's good. I mean, I don't really have anything else. That's really the main thing I wanted to touch on was the fact that we're gonna have a live show on October 12th. It's gonna
Yep.
be a big one. I mean, spread the word. Definitely get the word out there. Pack the house basically is what we want to have happen. We want everybody to show up and watch this live show. We're gonna have live reactions, live commentary. It's gonna be it's gonna be something else, y'all. I mean, it's gonna be awesome.
All right. Well, with that, we will wrap things up then finally. Like I said, thank you once again for watching Field and Diamond Talks. Go check out the other videos that we have. Leave a like, subscribe, hit the bell notifications, and we will be seeing you later on.